All right, so this lecture covers the use of the SPICE graphic organizer, which will be a very important tool in your world history class. And in this, we're going to look at how to use the graphic organizer to break down the major characteristics of civilizations in world history, and then how to use that graphic organizer as a basis for building good compare and contrast and continuity and change essays in world history. All right, so why do we use this graphic organizer? Well, world history has a lot of information, a lot of dates, names, places, groups, events from many different places and many different times. You can easily drown in details in a world history course. And so SPICE is a way to make sure that you break down those civilizations the same way every time. Now, if you've been watching some of our lectures from Project 2, you may notice as we go through this today that in those lectures, I've made an effort to kind of categorize things according to SPICE. I've put those lectures together in a way that will make using the SPICE graphic organizer easier as you're learning to use it. Later on, I won't be that easy on you, but right now I want you to really get strong with this graphic organizer, and so you'll see in those lectures you'll just see SPICE all over the place. And so we want to break down these civilizations the same way every time, because when we go to write good compare and contrast and continuity and change over time essays and do that analysis, we want to make sure we have the same pieces the same way, so that way we can fit them together and make patterns that make sense. All right, so what is SPICE, right? It's an acronym. So each letter stands for something, right? The S is for social structures. So these are gender roles and relations, right? How do men and women act within a civilization, right? Are the men supposed to have long hair or short hair? Are the women supposed to keep their face covered? Family and kinship patterns, right? Do people live with their grandparents, or do their grandparents live separately? Racial and ethnic constructions, right? How does a Punjabi act versus a Tamil? And then how the social and economic classes are defined, right? What does it mean to be rich? Are you rich because you own a lot of land, or are you rich because you own a lot of cows, or are you rich because you have a lot of money? Right? The P is for politics, right? State building and expansion and conflict, right? So this is war and government. The P stands for politics, right? So forms of government, right? A monarchy, an empire, a democracy, anarchy, right? Empires, right? How are those empires organized? How are they put together? How do they function? Or nations, how do those nations work? And we won't get to nations till later in this course. Revolts and revolutions, whether it's the American Revolution or the Peasants' Revolt of England from the medieval period, right? And any regional or trans-regional global structures and organizations. So these are things like the United Nations or the North Atlantic Free Trade Organization, Association, which involves Canada, the United States, and Mexico. The I stands for interaction between humans and the environment. So these are things like demographic patterns, right? Where are the large concentrations of people? Migration, right? Where did people move from? Where did they move to? Patterns of settlement. Are people organized into cities or villages? And then technology, right? How do people use things like dams to interact? If you've taken a good geography course, or if you've had a social studies course that involved, real good geography study, you probably recognize this I from the 5 themes of geography. Cultures, right? C stands for cultures, and cookies, right? That's things like religions, belief systems like philosophies and ideology, right? Capitalism is a belief system. Communism is a belief system, right? Science and technology is a part of culture. Telephones or armor or things like that. And then the arts and architecture, right? And we've looked a lot at monumental architecture in our second project this year. Finally, economic systems, right? How do people organize stuff, right? Whether it's producing farm crops or animals, how are those things traded? Labor systems, right? Are people paid to work, or are they forced to work, or are they enslaved? Later on in this course, we'll look at industrialization, right? Beginning to use machines to make stuff instead of just human hands. And then, capitalism and socialism, which are, philosophies, but then they're also ways of organizing an economy. Right, so if we've done a SPICE graphic organizer, and they look just like this, right? There's nothing fancy. Like I said, it's just a way of organizing stuff. It's just a set of buckets. And so as you read about a civilization or watch a lecture about a civilization, you're just constantly throwing facts into this goes into the politics bucket. This goes into the culture bucket, right? And so when you get to the end of studying that civilization, you hopefully have at least 2 or 3 things in every bucket. And so we can use that as a compare and contrast, right? We can look for things that are the same or things that are different. Sometimes it's both between civilizations. And then we analyze, right? If you know about KWL plus charts, right, you know that the SPICE graphic organizer is just L bullets. It's just facts, right? And so we want to try to lace these together with some analysis, some plus bullets, some commentary, right? And so, the graphic organizer here provides a good way to organize things. We can also use SPICE for analyzing continuity and change over time. And so again, this time we take one civilization, let's say maybe China before the Han Dynasty, and then we take a civilization later, let's take Han China, and we'd do a SPICE graphic organizer for each, right, before the Han Dynasty and then during the Han Dynasty, and then we can take them and put them together. And we can look for things that changed and things that stayed the same. And then again, we need to come up with some analysis. Why did that change? What caused it to change? What's your commentary, right? So remember, SPICE is a reading tool. It's a reading tool that is specific to world history. And again, we don't want to drown in details, so it's nice to have this tool. If you're familiar with KWL plus charts, if you're comfortable with those, and if you're my student, you definitely are, right? You can use SPICE for your W column in your KWL plus chart. So what are the politics of this civilization like? What are the economics of this civilization like? And then you can answer that in your L column, right? Their economy is like this. Their politics are like this. And then you can go over to that plus column and make that analysis. So we can also use the SPICE graphic organizer to analyze unique facts in our compare and contrast graphic organizer, and that's part of this project as well. And if you're a guest to these videos, you can look on this YouTube channel for the demonstration on how to use the compare and contrast graphic organizer that's a part of this course. So you can put the graph, we can, take a SPICE organizer, and these are the unique facts for civilization A, and then we can take the SPICE graphic organizer for civilization B and say these are the unique facts about civilization B, and then we can lace those together with some analysis and finally find those connections and those commonalities as I show you how to do in that graphic organizer demo video. Either way, you want to make sure you have that graphic organizer out when you're reading your world history textbook. And as I say all the time, that's going to keep all those details and all those words from just bouncing off your forehead. You're going to want to stop every paragraph or every half page when you're reading world history and put some details into your SPICE graphic organizer, and that's going to keep you from drowning. So that's it. Thanks for watching. And so if you need any examples on how to use a KWL plus chart or a compare and contrast graphic organizer, you can use the guest access button at MrBrayman.Info or look for more videos on this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.